tonight.
I want to see you. I miss you.
Churches facing new challenges in reopening their doors across the country.
We're going to maintain our social distancing. We're going to do everything right.
Plus, White House containment.
This is probably the safest place that you can come to.
As the coronavirus hits West Wing insiders.
It is scary to go to work.
Plus,
and the question is, does it apply to who teaches religion at religious schools?
The Supreme Court case over a religious school's right to fire and hire teachers. And the heartwarming story of a Navy SEAL.
Took care of me, I took care of him.
And man's best friend. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Should churches reopen? Welcome to Faith Nation, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder. That is the question many face as they begin to reopen their doors once again. In California, a federal judge has ruled the state's governor can ban church gatherings to protect public health. But a growing number of pastors says Governor Gavin Newsom has gone too far and needs to allow churches to reopen. CBN's Heather Sells has our top story.
On Sunday, May 3rd, Pastor Sam Rodriguez stood in the parking lot of his Sacramento church, preaching to his congregation in their cars. He had gone online earlier in the week, calling on church members to show up.
It may be selfish, whatever. I want to see you. I miss you.
Rodriguez, one of the president's closest faith advisors, has a plan to reopen his church in early June at 1/3 capacity.
We're going to maintain our social distancing. We're going to do everything right.
Rodriguez is one of hundreds of California pastors making plans to get back to church. Pastor Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel in Chino Hills is organizing a movement to open on May 31st, Pentecost Sunday. But that thinking doesn't mesh with Governor Newsom's, who currently has delayed opening of churches until the third wave of his plan, which is likely months from now. Pastor Matt Brown, founder of Sandals Church, is directly appealing to Newsom.
What I want from Governor Newsom is I want him to sit down with me, and I want him to look over our plan at Sandals Church. And we believe the church can meet together safely.
Brown is worried about the extended physical separation. Sandals leaders have called 20,000 attenders and found many struggling.
We have all kinds of emotional issues that are going on in our church. We have marital issues in our church. We're seeing a spike in depression and suicides and drug addiction.
Dr. John Jackson, the president of a Christian college near Sacramento, says churches must be allowed their First Amendment rights.
If it continues for months and months, I find it very inappropriate that I can go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread, be with all kinds of other people. I can go to the hardware store and buy supplies for my home maintenance, but I cannot go to a church.
But a federal judge disagrees. During a church lawsuit, he said that shoppers going to businesses for specific items is different from churchgoers communing together. Southern Baptist leader Russell Moore warns churches should not be treated differently.
The issue has to be safety. And so I think there are some areas where churches are treated in a different category that sees churches as being somehow less essential than other means of gathering. And I think that's a real mistake.
President Trump recently said he wants churches to reopen.
We have to get our people back to churches, and we're going to start doing it soon.
In this new COVID world, churches and government leaders must figure out how to protect First Amendment rights while balancing spiritual and mental health needs with physical safety. Heather Sells, CBN News.
And joining us now is Father Thomas Reese. He is a Jesuit priest and a senior analyst at Religion News Service. Father, it's great to see you. Thank you for being with us today.
Good to be with you again.
So the big question Heather just posed is an issue of religious freedom. How do churches balance, religious freedom and this First Amendment issue with the physical health and safety of congregants?
Well, I think this is not just a legal issue, it's also a moral issue. We as church people have a moral obligation to protect life. And we don't want to do open churches if they are going to put people at risk. Remember that in South Korea, it was a church that first introduced the virus to the South Korean community. We want to make sure we don't do that. So this is something we have to be very careful of. This comparison of churches to hardware stores, I think, is very much mistaken. We are much more like theaters or sports events where crowds are come together in close proximity. If they allowed theaters to open and not churches, I would be very upset. But grocery stores, where people are spaced and come in and stay for the shortest amount of period possible, that's not what churches are about. We're about coming together as a community in close quarters for an hour or more. We have to be very careful how we reopen.
What do you think are some practical measures in ways churches could do this? Is it wearing masks? Is it the social distancing component? Is there a safe way, do you think, that churches can reopen their doors?
I think it's all of those things. It's wearing masks. It's practicing social distancing, which means we're going to have much fewer people. We're going to have much less space for people in our congregations. And it's not just how we space people in the church. Remember, they're coming into the church. They're coming through a door. And you got to keep 6 feet apart when you're coming in. You got to keep 6 feet apart while you're out on the sidewalk waiting to get in. And when the service is over, we can't all jump up and head for the exits like we normally do. We're going to have to space, and it's going to require us being very regimented, and we're not used to that. I think it's theoretically possible for us to have services and respect social distancing, but it's not going to be easy. This is a logistical nightmare. Ushers are going to have to act like sergeant majors and telling people, no, stay apart.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's changing the way we talk about things, the way we're going to be doing things in the future. If you take the communion cup that some churches use, for example, is this going to be a relic of the past from now on?
Well, certainly during this time when we don't have a vaccine, I think, at least in the Catholic Church, we have decided not to have the communion cup during this time. Other churches which, have individual small cups, maybe they can work that out. But certainly sharing from the same cup is going to be a thing of the past. Also in the Catholic Church, I don't think we're going to be able to have communion on the tongue. I think that is very dangerous because saliva, as we know, is a great carrier of the virus. And, it's especially risky when people have the virus but don't show symptoms. So they can infect other people without even knowing that they themselves have the virus. This is what makes it so dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous and so difficult indeed. All right, Father Thomas Reese, it's always good to have you. Thank you and stay safe.
You too. Good to be with you.
Well, to the Supreme Court and a case over religious freedom. The question at hand, who should decide who gets to teach or preach a religion's doctrines, the faith institution or the government? The case that went before the Supreme Court today involves the firing of a 5th grade teacher by a California Catholic school. She wants the government to be the final judge, but the school insists the government should have no say in the matter. Paul Strand has that story.
Courts have already ruled that religious bodies alone have the power to decide about the hiring and firing of clergy. In this case, the school, Our Lady of Guadalupe, argues religious teachers also minister, so the government should be kept away from their hiring and firing.
The doctrine is a ministerial exception, and the question is, does it apply to who teaches religion at religious schools?
Beckett attorney Eric Rosbach argued the point to the justices not in the chamber, but over the phone.
Their job, number one, and their overriding commitment was to teach these kids to become Catholic and to believe in the Catholic faith.
One objection from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was that religious employers would get away without having to follow important laws.
The breadth of the exemption is staggering. That is, these people are exempt from all anti-discrimination laws.
The school's argument would strip more than 300,000 lay teachers in religious schools across the country of basic employment law protections.
The school's attorney argued government should not be allowed to interfere with those who minister faith. The school's defenders pointed out in a brief to the court how the laid-off teacher in this case was like a minister. She taught daily religion classes covering core Catholic doctrine, the sacraments, and how to read the Bible. She led daily and spontaneous prayers with and for her students.
You're teaching them religion more than they get to spend time with the parish priest. You're a minister of the faith.
Firm urges all religious believers to be concerned about the fate of the ministerial exception.
The right of religious schools to choose who passes on the faith to the next generation is important to all faiths. And if the government can dictate who teaches the faith, then they can decide what is being taught as well.
Strict constitutionalists interpret the First Amendment as being all about keeping government from controlling religion. And they say that's what's at stake in this case, keeping the hands of the state off the church. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Paul. Coming up, White House insiders test positive for coronavirus. We discuss with our Faith Nation political panel.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Tonight, new safety measures in Washington as COVID-19 hits the White House. This as 3 members of the coronavirus task force are now in self-quarantine. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with the latest. And Ben, Vice President Pence was also exposed to this virus.
Well, Jenna, it turns out Pence did go to work today despite having that close contact. His staff did release a statement saying that he has been tested and he's tested negative each and every day. This as the White House is now recommending testing of more than 1 million nursing home residents and staff in the next 2 weeks.
Growing concerns about infections at the White House after the VP's press secretary Katie Miller tested positive, the second person in the West Wing to do so.
It is scary to go to work. You know, I was not part of the White House in March. I think that I'd be a lot safer if I was sitting at home than I would be going to the West Wing. But, you know, it's a time when people have to step up and serve their country.
But some administration officials insist the People's House is safe.
I can tell you this is probably the safest place that you can come to.
Well, I'm not worried. No, I'm not worried.
Dr. Anthony Fauci is in quarantine. So is CDC Director Robert Redfield and FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn. All 3 are set to testify Tuesday before the Senate via video conference. Outside D.C., 45 states have eased restrictions. Today, Michigan will open manufacturing. In Indiana, bars and restaurants can resume at half capacity. This as President Trump continues to push that it's time to reopen the country.
And in light of the 2 cases in the West Wing, the White House now has new guidelines and recommendations for people stopping into the White House. You'll see more social distancing during meetings and expect to see White House aides and even Secret Service wearing masks. Jenna?
All right, White House correspondent Ben Kennedy, thank you. And here now for our Faith Nation political panel, CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. David, let's talk about this outbreak at the White House. You know, first it was the president's valet, and then an aide to the vice president, and 3 of the nation's top doctors are now in some form of self-quarantine. Does all of this undermine the president's plan to reopen the country?
No, in the short term, it doesn't undermine it. What it does do is give the White House, the West Wing, and this president a PR headache. I don't think there's any question about that. And so then you ask yourself, so what exactly would undermine some of this reopening that the president wants to do? And the answer is you go to the states. And if the states are doing better after they reopen, that's a good thing. And we just look at the data. And right now you've got Georgia looking better after they opened about a week and a half ago or so. Michigan looking better in terms of the death count there. And New York, we know, has been looking better too. So the White House will argue that they will just look at the facts rather than inside the West Wing specifically, Jenna.
Yeah. Switching gears here, former President Obama made waves over the weekend, calling the administration's response to the pandemic a, quote, absolute chaotic disaster. The former president has been largely silent really until now, David. Is this just the tip of the iceberg as we head further into the campaign season?
Yes, I think it is. I mean, Barack Obama and Joe Biden will tag team this president virtually or in person or however they're going to end up doing it during this campaign season, however that unfolds. And so I just think this is just the beginning. Now, having said that, Jenna, just between you, me, and everybody listening and watching, look, it was interesting timing that this private phone call of Barack Obama talking about President Trump and his response to the COVID-19 crisis got leaked into the media just on the same day within 24 hours since the big news came out about Michael Flynn and also about Barack Obama's involvement in the Russian interference scandal as it relates to Obama's big Oval Office meeting with Joe Biden and Susan Rice and all of that. That has been drowned out because of what you just asked me, which is mission accomplished for the Biden campaign.
Yeah. David, so I know you recently interviewed the President Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. He voiced his own concerns about reopening the country too soon. I know we have a clip of that. Let's play that, and then I want to get your thoughts.
This is a gamble by the president. And yes, he's pushing it off, not pushing it off, but he's saying, governors, you've got to decide. I get it. But if this thing comes back, so to speak, and the infection rates go up and the deaths go up after some of these states have opened up, I know he's saying governors have to decide, but this is going to fall on him. It's a big gamble here, Corey.
You're exactly right. If there is a resurgence, not just in the next 4 weeks or 6 weeks, but as the weather turns again, if come the fall, in September and October, we see an uptick again in the COVID-19 pandemic coming back because we didn't handle it right the first time, we still don't have testing and we don't have a solution, that is devastating as an incumbent president of the United States.
Look,
David,
Jenna, those are strong.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, please, ladies. All right, no, I'll do it. Look, I think that these were strong words by Corey Lewandowski, a senior advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign, actually saying that the president of the United States could be in big time trouble if this doesn't work out. That's a problem. That's a danger sign. Folks need to listen to Corey Lewandowski within the West Wing on that. So I think that's important. But look, it's kind of interesting, Jenna. All along we talked about, and Democrats were all excited about how impeachment was going to be Trump's undoing. Forget about it. Impeachment looks like a slow news day at this point. It's not about impeachment anymore. What it's about is how this president handles the coronavirus from here on out. And that will determine the fate of his presidency and whether or not he gets a second term. Even though he'll disagree, he says that won't be the whole kit and caboodle.
All right, David, we got to scoot.
I bet you it will be.
Okay, thanks, David. Up next, the heartwarming story of man's best friend, how dogs are helping troops during the pandemic.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, A new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The almost 20-year war on terror has claimed many American casualties. For those surviving their time on the front lines, sharing their stories can be therapeutic. That includes for former Navy SEAL Will Chesney, who participated in the mission to take down Osama bin Laden. He's now written about that with a unique twist. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with that story. Eric?
The title of Chesney's book, No Ordinary Dog, gives an indication of that twist. It focuses on his four-legged partner, Cairo, as much as himself, if not more. In a one-on-one interview, the author explained how Cairo saved his life in more than one way, so he decided to highlight the major role working dogs play in our military.
You know, I don't like talking about myself, but I'll talk about Cairo. He's pretty easy to talk about.
36-year-old retired Navy SEAL Will Chesney says he's always had a love for dogs and knew as a teenager he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. It wasn't until years later, after achieving that goal, that his two loves came together after hearing the testimonials of military dog handlers.
Raise your hand if a dog's ever saved your life. And everybody's hand just went up pretty much.
The first time I met Cairo was at Dam Neck at the training facility. And I remember him coming out towards the bunkers that we were working on, and he was a good-looking, laid-back, calm dog. He had a great bite. He was a really good worker. I got pretty lucky getting him.
Non-stop training built trust, relationship, and a deep dedication.
You know, we asked these dogs to do some pretty dangerous stuff, you know, and sometimes they lay down their lives to save ours.
That almost happened during a 2009 mission in Afghanistan when Cairo was shot while protecting his teammates.
When I saw him, he collapsed. I thought he had passed away. I thought he was dead right there.
But Cairo survived and went on to take part in a mission to finally get Osama bin Laden, the infamous mastermind behind 9/11.
But my job that night was to do sweeps of the perimeter, putting the dog in the best position to find any explosives or tunnel systems. I like to say I was just there to babysit Cairo pretty much and let him do all the work. And I remember, I'll never forget when we landed, just looking around and seeing that everybody was still alive and okay, and we had accomplished the mission. And I got to do it with my dog.
Assignments then took Chesney and Cairo in different directions. About a year later, a grenade blast left Chesney with a brain injury and post-traumatic stress, resulting in a difficult discharge from the Navy. By then, Cairo was also reaching the end of his career, and Chesney was able to bring him home.
Cairo was a huge part, and I would think getting me through the tough times as well. Cairo helped me get through some really tough times.
After watching Cairo suffer from cancer, Chesney had him put down in 2015. He says he wrote No Ordinary Dog to honor Cairo's memory, while also bringing attention to military working dogs and service animals in general.
He took care of me, I took care of him. And I just want to tell Cairo's story.
the ultimate love story between man and man's best friend. And animals continue to play an integral role for our service members. Just last week, the Defense Department highlighted how our troops helping the fight against COVID-19 in New York are receiving stress therapy from animals provided by the organization Puppies Behind Bars. It's why Chesney says even with shrapnel still in his body, he will continue to advocate for animals who assist and protect our military and first responders. He believes Cairo would be proud. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Finally tonight, as families found creative ways to celebrate mothers this weekend, one family's private serenade quickly attracted an audience. Rebecca Roy and her family sang "You Are My Sunshine" outside their grandmother's senior home in Michigan, but other residents assumed the song was for them.
You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
And the residents clapped along on their balconies before the family was finally joined by their grandmother. The rain and changes in plan didn't stop the Mother's Day celebration, and Roy said her grandmother and the residents there all seemed to very much enjoy it. And we will leave it on that note this evening. Thank you so much for joining us and starting your week with us. We'll see you here tomorrow.